Okay, so look, we've got the quality place, what do you call this, title screen there that says light baking, in case you can't read my horrible mouse handwriting, light baking. So there's like the workflow for it. So, okay, you've got your stadium model, and any model that you drag in, you want to go to the FBX file and you must make sure, unless I don't know why I'm saying this, but unless that you've made a UV map specifically for the light maps, which I don't usually do when I'm making models, and lots of other people don't do it either. If they're third-party models, you have to tick this, and that will create a second set of UVs for light mapping in UV2, like it says there on the tooltip. You can do this yourself in Blender, but it's easier to just do it in Unity, because then you get, if you do it like this way, you then get these options here, and so you can sort of tweak it if there's any issues. And in this particular version of Unity, you need to go to Edit Preferences and Jobs, and then you need to untick Use Job Threads, because there is apparently a bug in the multi-threading in this particular version of Unity that has been fixed in 6000.0.25, but it's in this one, which causes the light mapper to crash if you, like, well, I don't know what the cause is, like user side, but you click generate lighting and then sometimes it gets to like 2/3 of the way through and it just sits there for fucking ages and ages and ages, and it shouldn't sit there for 40 minutes doing it. It should do it really quickly, and it does do it if you tick that off. But I mean, I still had to restart the editor a couple of times, like if I forgot to tick that off, or sometimes, yeah, if you change a lot of things and you don't go down here and clear baked data, if you forget to do that, it'll sometimes hang forever, and sometimes it will just hang forever anyway, and so then you've got to Control or delete, bring up Task Manager, kill the Unity editor, it will close, then you reopen the project and you can get a fresh bake. Right. And here, under lighting, under baked light maps, this is where all your light map textures will be stored after you click generate lighting. But it's not doing it for any of these, because once you tick static and then you tick contribute global illumination on the mesh object, and then if you set this to light probes, it's using light probes, and if you set it to light maps, then a texture will appear in here for that object to sort of paint on top of it the shadows and stuff, the fake shadows and fake lighting. And that's why it will only work for sort of one time of day. It will paint fake bounced lighting, which, you know, that's really what the light mapping is for. You'll get bounced lighting, whereas real-time lights or mixed lights, they just do direct lighting on a surface from the point. They will fire out lots of rays and it will say, I'm hitting this, and then it will light it up, but it won't do the pew, 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 you know, the ambient lighting. And similarly to ambient lighting, you will get ambient occlusion on the baked light map. If you go down here and you tick this on, then it will bake into it ambient occlusion onto the light maps. But this is not right. This is for when you're actually baking textured light maps. Here we're using the adaptive probe volume, which is the new thing in Unity, which has replaced the old light probes. And the way that this thing is set up is you can either have it set to local, which means you can set the size of this box, right? But right now I've got it set to scene, so it looks at all of the mesh objects, the mesh renderers, and it goes, you are set to light probes, so it knows to include this. And so you'll see it's huge. It's taken because I've got pretty much everything set to use light probes, so it's expanded all the way out. And if I go, where is it? Render debugger. Then we go to probe volumes. And then we display the probes. This is probably going to crash, right? I don't know if you can see this because it might not. The video quality might not be great, but there are probably millions of little circles, and each one of these is I can't think what it's called. It's got a really cool, fancy sounding name. Spherical. Fuck, if only I could remember what it was called. Spherical something or other, right? But it's basically like it's like a cube map or a reflection map. It's like a circular panoramic image. So let me turn these off. So you saw those, right? You got millions of them all over the scene, and what they're doing is they are baking the lights, the light intensity and direction onto an image that is getting applied to that tiny little sphere, kind of like a, let's make one quickly, kind of like a, okay, it's not under rendering, it's under reflection probe, kind of like one of these. So we put this here, go to the preview thing and bake this. See, it's made a projected reflection, panoramic reflection from this point in space. And so then if I was to put a really shiny object where that is, it would find that as the closest reflection probe, and it would apply this onto the surface of a, why don't I just do that instead of explaining this? So yeah, grab a 3D sphere. I mean, this is probably preaching to the choir here. You probably know what I'm talking about, but it'd be nice if you have a metal. There you go. Oh, these aren't going to work. I don't really want to mess with any of the materials. Okay. I can't example that, but hopefully you get the point, is that this shiny reflection will be put back onto the object, and that's what the adaptive light probes, that's what it's doing, but with lights. So if I get rid of that now, so that's in fact replacing the need for the light maps. And whereas the old light probes, adaptive probe volumes, that's what it's called, whereas the old light probes, they used to be not as good as light maps. Like, I want to say that they're not perfect, because, like, for example, this should be lit up, but they are pretty good. They're comparable to the light maps, and yeah, on something like this where these are quite high resolution on the light map, and this area, because the checkers are huge, this would be very low resolution on the light map compared to, you know, this part of the ground here, even higher resolution than these people billboards. So this would get a very high resolution, or that would take up lots of space on the light map. This would take up a medium amount of space, and this would take up a low amount of space on the light map. But also, because it's taking up a low amount of space, it gets a lower it gets lower detailed lighting on it. Whereas the adaptive probe volumes, God, I managed to say it that time, but I had to see it to be able to say it. Whereas these adaptive probe volumes, they're taking up less memory than the light maps, and they're giving a better overall quality, because I don't know what Blackmagic Unity is using, but it looks at all of these objects that have, turn it back to this, it looks at all of the objects that have light probes set there, and it can somehow work out, oh, these all need lots of probes near them, and it's placed them sort of intelligently. So I don't know, there's like pros and cons. You get less direct control with the placement, but at the same time, for a huge stadium like this, it would be quite a chore to go around setting up probes. And so hopefully I've covered everything. Oh yeah, and I don't know how obvious, but then once you've set these things and you've clicked static and you've set contribute global illumination, you set it to light probes, you then go to the lighting tab, you click generate lighting, and then wait. And then I'm not going to do it now because it will cause my computer to grind to a halt, but it will do it, and then eventually it will, you know, the box in the middle of the screen will disappear, and then you will have baked lighting. And first it will do the light maps, then it will do the adaptive probe volume. Did I say it right? Yes, adaptive probe volumes. It will do that as a second stage after it's baked the actual light maps. And also, there's a bunch of settings here like filtering. For now, I've got the filtering set to auto. This is set to, I thought I'd bump this up to 2048, but it's I suppose it doesn't matter now because this is for the baked light maps. Yeah, so actually I'm about to talk a load of crap, but for the purpose of thoroughness, I'll cover this, right? If I wasn't using the adaptive probe volumes, and if I had this set to light maps, and this was split up better so that the texel size here was more consistent, because this is bad, right? You don't want this to be extremely, like, you want more checkers on this, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Like, these have checkers on them, so they will be able to get quite good light map resolution, whereas this large piece of stadium, because it's all one massive object like that, it can't, you know, it's not getting enough space on the light map to really do good. But if it was, and it was using light maps, then on the final bake, when you were getting ready to demo your project, or when you were getting ready for like the final render, you would bump this up to the highest that your hardware can handle. You would bump this up to high quality. You might want to bump these up a bit, but I mean, they're probably fine. You might want to bump up the amount of bounces to get more light bouncing. You might want to bump up indirect contribution of the ambient occlusion to make the corners here, they'll get more ambient occlusion, they'll become darker, it will give you more contrast overall, and you know, conversely, bumping up the bounces will make it brighter overall. You get more bounce lighting, so you will counteract that by bumping up this, and you will get better contrast overall. And bumping this up from low quality to high quality will tell you here if you hover over it. Lower quality reduces memory and storage requirements at the cost of artifacts. Higher quality requires more memory and storage but provides better visual results. So this one, if it looks fine, it looks fine and you're saving space. But if you want it to look better and you don't mind the cost of memory, then whack it up. Or if you see visual problems, whack it up. That you just want to put as high as you can afford it on the hardware. The resolution, you can, I mean, this is the main quality controller here. 40 is pretty low. If this was like a architectural render of a single room, you might want to whack this up to, like, you know, something stupid like I don't know, 120, 200 maybe. I don't know what the max setting is on it, to be honest, but I've had it at 120 before and that's fine. But then if you whack that up, you have to put up the padding a bit, because yeah, I'm trying to think what else to cover. And I mean, you can lower these settings in order to get quicker previews, but then you start to see problems like visual artifacts and stuff, which you don't ever really want if you're trying to test out your lighting. Trying to think what else. And it's set to baked in direct. Like, I don't really know if this is the best thing. I think Shadow Mask is better, based on that's the one that Unity advises to use. But I mean, I've also read that it takes up more memory and stuff, so I'm not actually sure if it is better. But you know, you'd have to test, and since I've not had any complaints about using this so far, I've kept it as is for this project, but we will see, I guess. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've missed that needs to be covered. And yeah, you've got plenty of settings for the adaptive probe volumes. I also think that there is some discrepancy here in that this area should be lit and it's not, and I think that's an error, but no complaints, so it's all good. Yeah, there you go, there's the baked lighting workflow in 6000.0.23.